Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please comment and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards of Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Today, we got a special video that's coming from dear from my heart. If a lot of people who've been following us over the last few years at 100 Yards Football, everybody knows that I'm very proud of where I'm from. I always go by the 901 Memphis, Tennessee. Well, today I got a special guest. This gentleman, me and him go way back, all the way back to the first grade. And if I would have known that this gentleman would have been a Major League Baseball player starting in center field in the 1985 season with the Los Angeles Dodgers, I would have said, thank you, Jesus. And today this show is being blessed at a high level. So if you like the video today, please comment and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards Football. Special thanks to our producer who's making it happen today, Mr. Logan Landers. So let's get into the show. This gentleman comes out of my hometown, Memphis, Tennessee. In 1978, he was Player of the Year, City of Baseball in Memphis, Tennessee from Southside High School. He also, excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry, on the phone. He also attended Southern University. He was recruited by the big-time school, Arizona State University, but he elected to go to Southern. The one thing about this story is this gentleman, I seen him play at a high level at all three sports in high school. He's now the head baseball coach at Alcorn State, but what's so great about his journey is that he went to Southern University. He was a two-time SWAC Player of the Year. He ended up his career at Southern with 300. He had 345. He had 58 hits, 26 stolen bases his senior year. He was Player of the Year. Then he got drafted twice. He was drafted his junior year by the St. Louis Cardinals. Then he went back. He was drafted his senior year, elected to go back to school, and he's drafted his senior year by the Los Angeles Dodgers. And this is a true story. I was living in Knoxville, Tennessee, married at the time, and I was watching Monday Night Baseball on ABC. And I said, oh my God, it's like the Nile River is opening. I said, I can't believe this. And my wife at the time, I told her I went to school with that gentleman right there. And he was representing the city of Memphis at a high level. They started in center fielder. Then he went on and had an outstanding career, played in 200 major league games, batted 260, played with the Dodgers, played with the Cleveland Indians. Then he went into coaching. He's now been a volunteer coach with the Memphis Redbirds. And then, as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, he's now the head baseball coach at Alcorn State. And let me tell you something, one more tidbit before I bring him on today. In high school, we was a pretty good high school football team in 1978. Our school, Southside High School, went to the state playoffs, and they lost in the first round to Christian Brothers, who eventually won the state championship. That night, our offense gained, I believe, maybe 50 yards rushing. Well, at the time, if we had this gentleman right now that's on in front of us right now, there's no question about it. We won't won the state in football with him being at the tailback position. But furthermore, I've said enough. I'm very proud today to bring on a Southern grad, a guy that played in the Major League Baseball system, played with the Dodgers and the Cleveland Indians. Right now, is coaching at a high level at Alcorn State. My man, Mr. Reggie Williams. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, Vincent. I really appreciate that introduction. And I have to say this, first and foremost, to God be the glory. It wasn't because of me, mainly in spite of me. So I have to give him the glory for the opportunity to accomplish the things that you have mentioned. And one other thing I do want to mention so that my Alcornite associates, alumni, and friends, I want to make sure that you remember how to say our school name.
Oh,
And you can remember it like this: always all corn.
yes, sir.
All right. That
Yes,
way,
sir.
I won't get in any trouble with any of the alumni here because they are very, very particular about how you say that name, Alcorn. So remember, always Alcorn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you like the video, please come and share it today here on 100 Yards Football. Reggie, let's go back to your childhood. Tell the story of your great career coming from childhood, middle school, on the high school, on the college. Let's hear your story from the start.
Well, Vincent, I grew up watching my father play baseball and ultimately softball. And he was a really good baseball player himself. He was a graduate of Booker T. Washington. And that was back in the glory days of Booker T. Washington, because during his tenure there, you had people like Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire the great songster and producer Memphian David Porter, who was there along with some other very outstanding athletes and people of Memphis. So Booker T. Washington was one of those schools that really produced some very good talent. But watching him play and seeing him, his passion for the game, and I can remember as a young kid, my dad was a Dodger fan, ironically, and we would always go up to St. Louis to see the Dodgers when they played the Cardinals, and that's when they had Busch Stadium. And that baby was a hot box. Let me tell you, with AstroTurf and in St. Louis, it does get hot. I mean, you can see the heat coming off the turf. But that was my early exposure to baseball, seeing the Dodgers play in Busch Stadium. And from then on, I started in middle school at Longview Junior High School. I was a pitcher. I was an outfielder, and basically wherever there was a need for me to play. But fortunately, I was blessed to have baseball as a good talent. I also played basketball, and I also played a little football. Football was not my favorite, but I could play. But baseball was the game that came naturally to me, and I always played baseball with older guys. Even when I was in the WDIA league, I can remember specifically playing at a higher level. I wasn't playing with the kids of my age. I was playing with kids that were 4 or 5 ages, older than I was. So I was able to compete and be an outstanding player at that level. And then from there, I went on to Southside High School, and as a sophomore, because I was a 10th grader, as a sophomore, I was a starting pitcher, believe it or not, behind one of the other seniors. But I did win an award. I want to say Outstanding Pitcher of the Year as a sophomore. And then from there, it just went on all the way up. I think we were the first Southside team to win, I want to say, the district championship. We lost in the city championship to, again, Christian Brothers High School, who's always been a very good and notable baseball program. But we lost to them in the city playoffs. But even through the district tournament, I was all district, I was all state, and so forth. So, I was very blessed, Vincent, to be able to accomplish those goals. And then from there, went on to college. I was at Southern University. I was recruited as a pitcher, but I couldn't quite command my fastball. But I did have speed, and there was an opportunity for me to go out into the outfield. And once my coach saw me in the outfield, he just told me, hey, you stay out there. You don't worry about coming in and pitching no more. You stay on the outfield, and you just run the bases. And from there, as you mentioned, I was drafted twice out of college, once by the Cardinals, which was another historic and reputable organization. Then I went back, got my degree, and then the Dodgers drafted me in my senior year, and I went on to play for the Dodgers a couple of years, and then I was traded and went to the Cleveland Indians. I played with some really notable players in my career, and now after having been in player development for the Milwaukee Brewers 7 years, with the Cincinnati Reds for 4 years, and also at home with the Memphis Redbirds for 12 years, being a broadcaster, radio and television, and working in public relations, working with youth baseball in the city. It's just been a passion of mine, Vincent, and I've been very blessed and fortunate to have been involved in baseball, and it has been a part of my life, and many times, oft times, to a fault.
If you like the video today, please comment and share it. See, Reginald, I'm going to call him Reginald now. He's being kind of modest today, but I'm going to go on and put it down. It's when we was in high school together in middle school. When you talk about all the great athletes that came through the city of Memphis, from Hank McDowell, Rich Jones, Johnny Newman, McKinley Singleton, Bingo Smith, Reuben Jackson, Michael Brooks, Anthony Love, Raymond Buggs, Ronnie Skinner, Keith
Yeah.
Simpson,
And
Eric
Penny Hardaway.
Harris,
Penny
Keno
Hardaway.
Pete, Mark Harper, Tyrone Porter, who played center field for the Carver High School, who should have been at Southside with you. Brian Ingram, Philip Jett from Hampton High School, Tim McCarver, Charlie Lee, Taylor Duncan.
Bill Matlock was born in Memphis too.
Absolutely. This gentleman that's on front of the screen right here.
Larry Herndon, that's another one. Larry Herndon was the Rookie of the Year for the Detroit Tigers back in his day.
I put you in the category of all those great athletes that came through Memphis, Tennessee. But a true story that I told Reggie that I'm going to bring up today. Our sophomore year, we had a pretty good football program. I can't remember the gentleman that stepped down, but Mr. Glenn Rogers took over as a junior. In my junior season, me and Reggie's junior season, he was also the baseball coach. Now, leading into the junior year, Southside went 4-6 that year. But coming into the senior season, everybody said we had a state team. But if everybody knows back then, you had different lunch periods. And I remember clearly, we had a big old jukebox in the middle of the lunchroom. It was thumping that music. It was thumping Climbing Up the Ladder by the Isley Brothers. And then somebody came into the gym. We were shooting basketball. Hey, man, did you hear the news? Did you hear the news? Man, the football team going to take a step back. Everybody was saying, why? Man, Reggie Williams said he's going to give up football and just concentrate on baseball. Word is my witness today. The whole student body got quiet. Say, what? Out of the blue, our best player, not on the baseball team, but also on the football team, said he was going to put it down and just concentrate on baseball. Granted, Southside went to the state. Our senior year, they went 8-2, but as I just brought up, they only had, 50 yards rushing in the high school game. But I want everybody knowing in our audience out here, 100 yards football. If we had this gentleman right here at the tailback position, because, see, Southside, we had some people that went D1 that year. Jerry Knowlton, they ended up going to Memphis State. Carlton Peoples, who ended up going to the University of Tennessee. Mark Stutterway, who went to the University of Tennessee. Willie Edwards, our quarterback. Let me get it right.
Yep.
Alcorn. Let me get it right. Alcorn. Bear with me today. The Cole brothers, Robert and Walter.
Wow.
Who went down at Norman, Mississippi. But everybody knew for us to go to the next level, we had to have the star in the backfield. And when Reginald Williams said that he wasn't going to play football, it became a dark cloud, because I can tell you this, as much offers that this gentleman on the screen had in baseball, I guarantee you he would have been a D1 tailback. And I'm talking about serious schools, Oklahoma, Tennessee. And I think outside Jerry Knowlton, I think Reginald, you was the fastest player on the team. But that brings up good memories because you shocked the world. But going into your senior year, he was all-state first team, player of the year, run-up the player of the year in baseball. I believe the Raymond Buggs, correct?
Vincent, I tell you, your memory is pristine. I tell you, that's so long ago in my life. A lot of that is kind of like the past.
But I think
really, so I appreciate your memory, because a lot of that I have long forgotten in terms of my life and my career. I mean, you're going back and bringing up a lot of familiar names. And we had a lot of really good athletes at Southside High School, I can tell you. And you're exactly right. I forgot about Mark Stutterway and the Cole brothers and Jerry Knowlton. I still know Jerry. He just retired from the police department. Willie Pop, we used to call him Pop.
Yes, sir.
He was back there back then. I mean, it was just a wealth of talent. Dwayne Martin, Vincent Carter.
Yes, sir.
We had Maurice. Maurice, the basketball player at Southside? Very good basketball player.
More.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it was just a very talented group. And, the sad thing now, Vincent, if you don't mind me bringing this up, I went back through the neighborhood the other day when I was back in Memphis, and I was very, very disappointed to witness what I saw, or actually what I didn't see. I'll leave it at that. I won't say the actual thing. And those of you who are listening that may know Southside, you may know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was very disappointed to witness something that was a vacancy. I'll just put it like that. And it really kind of hurt my heart because there are a lot of memories, at Southside High School.
Yeah, the school, I believe, was it was torn down a couple of years ago, and that was really a big shock to the community because it brings up so many great memories of our childhood and the great people that came there before us and after us. And then after high school, like I said, I went on and attended the University of Arkansas. Now, when we left high school and graduated in that May 9th of 78, everybody was saying, well, Reggie gonna end up you're gonna probably play baseball at Arizona State, but if he don't go to Arizona State, he's gonna probably go out there to Memphis State. So I become a freshman in August of 78. I'm calling home every day. Then I called one of my sisters who graduated with your brother Derek, my sister Bridget. She said, hey, I got something to tell you. I said, what it is? She said, hey, Reggie signed with Southern University. I said, Southern? I said, okay, with all that 3-time all-state, all-city run-up player of the year. So I said, okay. So about in my sophomore year, as I'm attending Arkansas, I get word that, hey, it's a guy down there in Baton Rouge. He's lighting it up, man. And I said to myself, I say, hey, a gentleman from our hometown was telling me, I said, I know it's got to be Reggie Williams. He said, yeah, man, it's Reggie Williams. And then I started following your career real closely. And then I saw when you got drafted by the Cardinals. Then you came back your senior year, and then you had that outstanding season when you hit 345, as I said before. You had 58 hits, 26 stolen bases. You had 5 triples that year, 2 home runs. But that was the first year that the SWAC conference, their representative, the champion, could go to the NCAA tournament. And I remember y'all played Jackson State in that championship game. I just want you to give us an overlook of what happened in that game and some of the star players that played in that game.
Wow, that particular game brings back a lot of memories. Some of them not so good because, as you mentioned, that was the first year that the SWAC was going to be able to play in the NCAA tournament. It was my senior year, and there were some really good ball players on the field. I mean, from us, we had myself, DeMarlo Hale, who is now the bench coach for the Cleveland Guardians. We also had Kenny Clay, Charles Dinkins, who was drafted. We had Harvey Lee, who was drafted by the Yankees. Several good players, but even on Jackson State team, they had Oil Can Boyd, Marvin Freeman. They had Dave Clark. They had Kurt Ford. All of those guys were drafted into professional baseball as well. So you had a wealth of talent. But the thing was, we were playing at Jackson State, and it was my senior year, and we had a really good team. The only tough part was we were not only playing against 9 people, we were playing against 11 people because the umpires were not favorable for us. And the kicker was Walter Payton's younger brother, Eddie Payton.
Yes, sir.
Was the home plate umpire. And if I'm not mistaken, Eddie Payton did some work there at Jackson State. I want to say he did some golf work.
Yeah, he was the golf coach, I believe, some years ago. Yes, sir.
I believe so, but I promise you, he would not call a strike for our pitchers. And if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Coach Boyd may have gotten tossed out of that game because Coach Boyd was just livid at the fact that, the pitches that were being thrown for strike, the strike zone was varying, put it like that. It wasn't consistent. And as a result, we lost that game by 1 run, and it really broke my heart because we really wanted to go to the tournament. And that was my last season at Southern, and we lost 10-9 to a Jackson State team. They were talented, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like we were the better team had we had an umpire that was fair and gave us the calls that we deserved as a team. And after that, the rest is history. I was drafted and went on into professional baseball.
Talk about your coach at Southern University, Leroy Boyd, because You told me off air he was the reason that you made it to the major leagues, and you talked very highly of him. Tell us some good things about Coach Boyd.
Some good things
Yes,
about during
sir.
that time.
Yes, sir.
Coach Boyd was a different animal back during those years. He has since settled down, become quite a gentleman, an accomplished gentleman as well. But back during that time, brother, I don't know too many good things I could say about Coach Boyd because he was borderline on crazy. I remember one day uh, he did something, I can't remember what it was. Had us practicing all that night, way into, I think we missed dinner. So we were seniors, and so we had a team meeting and said, you know what, we're not going to practice tomorrow. And tomorrow was Sunday, so everybody stayed in their rooms. Coach Boyd was the only person on the field. He's looking around because we kind of had a lookout watching him. Coach Boyd coming, Coach Boyd coming. Everybody went in their room. Be quiet, be quiet. Everybody was quiet. He came knocking on every door down that hall. Nobody said anything. And I can't say this is a G-rated show but I can't tell you what he said down the hall because he knew we were in the room, but nobody answered the door. We paid for it that Monday, but I tell you what, it was a revolt. We said we're not going to practice because of the way you did us, and I think he remembered that. He drove on off. We didn't practice, and we all celebrated that day. We ate lunch in the back, had a good time, and we just knew we were going to pay for it that next Monday. But we had to pay him back somehow, and that was the way we did it. We did a revolt. We didn't go to practice. Nobody answered the door, and I think he will remember that himself.
One thing you told me about Coach Boyd, you said he was a gentleman that was fundamentally strong about the game, knew the game inside out.
He did. He did. He was very knowledgeable of the game, and that was a good thing because he taught us how to be prepared for the game, what to expect at the next level, the type of play you're going to be having, the fundamentals of running the bases, the fundamentals of hitting your cutoff men, the fundamentals of accurately throwing the ball, hustling on and hustling off the field. Those things paid dividends when you got to the next level because those are the things that the coaches at the professional level were looking for. How you approach the game, your work ethic, your preparation for practice, your preparation for games. And those are things that we learned at Southern University from Coach Boyd, which, like I said, paid dividends at the professional level. So it really helped me to adjust and adapt to professional baseball and, become the player that I became.
I found something yesterday when I was doing my research on you, Reginald, and I saw where somebody had put your skill set of you playing center field and had gave you grades on your skill set. And I looked at that list, and in the first skill set, defensive skills, A+, excellent speed, A+, strong arm, A+, great vision, A+, athletic, A+, quick learner, A+, highly alert, A+, all around athlete, going backwards, A+, initial quickness, A+, explosive start, A+.
Vincent, can you send me Vincent? Can you send me that article? I would love to see that and put it in a frame.
Yes, sir. Elusive, A+. Hands, A+. FBI, FBI, BBI, baseball intelligence, and the burst and acceleration as you're a center fielder. And they put all those skill level up A+, and it makes no reason that I didn't have no doubt that you become a starting center fielder for anybody in the major leagues. But talk about when you finally made it to the major leagues and you knew you was going to be the opening day starter. What went through your mind and what was your feelings at that time?
First of all, Vincent, I have to say I want to let you know that I'm humbled by those traits that you just called off about me. I haven't seen that particular analysis of my skill set, but I have to let you know, man, I have to receive that with all humbleness because, ego can take over at times in life, and sometimes it could hurt you, and there are other times that it could help you. So I want you and your listening audience to know that I feel very humble with those things that you just described of me. And if you do have that assessment, I would love to have a copy of it. And like I said, I'd love to put it in a frame, because I think this is definitely worthy to be put in the frame. But as far as baseball is concerned, Vincent, like I said, I've been in professional baseball for 33 years, and these last 2 years, so I've been in baseball 36 years, over half of my life. And at times I did baseball to a fault. And I have to say that, sincerely and openly. But I have been blessed by baseball, because baseball has taught me various cultures around the country. I think I've lived in at least 40 of the 50 states. And I mean, living there as maybe a visitor in a hotel, maybe traveling, stopping in overnight and things like that. But it has opened my mind and helped me as an educator, because in my background, I'm also a teacher, a principal. I've been an adjunct professor. So it has helped me to be able to help kids to understand the value of an education. I mean, going to various countries. I mean, playing in Cartagena, Colombia, playing in Caracas, Venezuela, playing in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, playing in Calgary, Canada, playing in Toronto, playing in Vancouver. All of those things have really bode well for me as it relates to having an education about the East, should I say the Western Hemisphere. I haven't been across the big pond yet, but that's definitely on my bucket list. But here on the Western side of this, the Prime Meridian, it has been an education for me, and I've learned a lot. I even can speak a little Spanish. It's a little bit more difficult to understand it when they speak in their native tongue, but I can speak a little Spanish, especially when I'm in the Spanish countries, and that helps to navigate those countries and so forth. So, just playing baseball and learning baseball, becoming a student of the game, Vincent. I think that was the one thing, because when we grew up, there were a lot more blacks in baseball, Vincent. Right now, I think the percentage is around 6 to 7%. When we came up, it was right around 28 to 25%. I mean, we had the guys like Willie Mays. We had Hank Aaron. We had Willie McCovey. You had Lou Brock, Bob Gibson, Reggie Jackson, who was my idol, Vital Blue. I mean, I could go on just naming professional baseball players who stood out during those years, which made us learn the game more. Now, you ask a kid now to name 3 African-American baseball players, and I would venture to guess it's very hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Talk about your time, some of the great players you played with the Dodgers and then with the Cleveland Indians, some of your relationships. I know Al Oliver was with the Dodgers when you was there, and then talk about your time also when you was with the Indians with Joe Carter and Julio Franco.
Well, I tell you, I have had an opportunity to play with some really, really outstanding players. You mentioned 2 of them right there, Joe Carter, I think a 2-time World Series champion, Julio Franco, who's just defied the laws of age, playing well into his 40s. Sometimes some people think he was 50 when he was playing. They don't really know. But, I mean, him, you talk about Corey Snyder, Mel Hall, you talk about Fernando Valenzuela or Hershiser. You talk about Pedro Guerrero, Steve Sachs, Bill Madlock, Bill Russell. You talk about my great skipper, the legendary, affable Tommy Lasorda, Hall of Famer. So those are some of the people that I played. Manny Mota, who was my hitting instructor, who really taught me about hitting and the essence of using the whole field and staying up the middle with hitting the baseball, helping you to stay back on the ball and not opening up and cheating and so forth as it relates to trying to hit the fastball. So those are just some of the guys, that I played with and had some really good relationships. I mean, seeing the gentleman, Vin Scully, the ultimate, the epitome of radio broadcaster, seeing Roy Campanella being wheeled into the lunchroom by his wife, seeing Mrs. Jackie Robinson coming into the lunchroom dining, seeing John Newcomb, one of the first blacks to play in baseball during the Roy Campanella era, right after Jackie Robinson came up. So it was just a wealth of talent, a wealth of baseball players, being around some Negro League ball players, Joe Scott, who's a Memphian. He was legendary during his time with the Memphis Red Sox. I'm trying to think of the gentleman that started out the Negro League Museum. His name eludes me, but I'm sure it's a name that everybody knows. I can't think of it right offhand, but met him and things like that. And a lot of people don't know, Vincent, the civil rights game that Major League Baseball has incorporated into a schedule. That game it started in Memphis, Tennessee. The Memphis Redbirds started the civil rights game. The first two of those games were played in Memphis with the St. Louis Cardinals. 1 year it was versus the Chicago White Sox. I can't remember who the next team it was against, but that game started in Memphis, Tennessee, and now it has been taken over by Major League Baseball. So Memphis has a great baseball history. A lot of people don't know that Babe Ruth played in Memphis, not for Memphis, but he played in Memphis over at the park that burned down. And the name eludes me, and I should remember it, but it's right over there behind Baptist Hospital. We had our own ballpark. The Red Sox did down over there by Danny Thomas and Wellington, so forth. So Memphis has a great baseball history altogether.
Mr. Logan Landers, our producer today, Reggie, wants to ask you a couple of questions. Mr. Logan Landers, you have Mr. Reggie Williams.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Turner, for that. So, Mr. Williams, we talked about your career so far, getting drafted, going to the show, playing a little bit. So let's talk about post-career. What made you want to get into coaching? You mentioned some of the teams you worked for with Milwaukee and Cincinnati and throughout their farm systems. So after your playing career was over, did you always know you wanted to get into the coaching game?
Well, I think I'm a teacher at heart. And, I've been in the education industry working with young men and young ladies and what have you. But, just having the love of the game and wanting to teach kids to play the game the right way, how to hit first base, how to hit the corners of the bags when you're going from first home to first or second or what have you, outfield play, whether it means to always be backing up bases, just teaching the game of baseball, Logan. That's really what I wanted. And I always wanted to have my own program, because when you're in professional baseball, you're basically at the direction of general management, which is upstairs. They have their prospects, kids that they want you to focus on, things they want you to teach. So you have to do what they're asking you to do. But if you have your own program, you can teach kids the way you want to the way you want to teach, and teach the basic fundamentals of the game and make sure that they understand the essence of those skills, because baseball is very skill oriented. And a lot of times you get kids now that start later on in life, and it's very difficult to catch on to baseball. So, but if you start them out young and you start them out with the basic fundamentals of fielding, throwing, catching, running, and hitting, then maybe you can grow a couple of baseball players out of the bunch.
Yes, sir. No doubt about that. And let's talk about your few seasons so far at Alcorn, how that's been for you, and how do you feel coming into the upcoming 23-24 campaign?
My first year here, I was hired late in the season. I was hired September the 1st, which is after your recruiting season. Yep. So I came to school here with 12 guys on my team. 12 guys. We finished with 18. I remember when we were playing Ole Miss, and I brought the lineup to home plate to exchange lineups, and the umpire looked at my lineup. He said, "Coach, where's the rest of your team?" I said, "That is my team." He said, "Oh, my goodness. I had 18 players. Ole Miss had 18 pitchers."
Wow.
And so we were a little shorthanded. And, my first year was a tough one, but, we made it through. We won a couple of games, but last year we improved greatly, 400%. We had a much better team. I had the youngest team in the country. I had 20 freshmen. Most teams on most rosters have maybe 4 or 5 freshman players. At any one time when I'm starting a lineup, I had at least 7 freshmen in the lineup. So our oldest pitcher was a sophomore. So it was a learning season for us, but I tell you, we got much, much better. And this year, our goal is ATL. That's our motto this year, ATL. And Vincent, I know you know what ATL stands for. And that's where the SWAC tournament will be held, and it'll be held at Georgia Tech. And that's sure. What we're going to have in front of us this year. That's our motto. That's our goal. We want to make the tournament this year. and they take 8 teams out of the 12. So if we can do that, there will be another leap forward in terms of our progress and improvement moving forward. Because I told my players and I told my staff, my goal is Omaha. We're not only wanting to win the conference, we want to get to Omaha where the College World Series is. I don't think there's ever been an HBCU team there, and I would love to be a trailblazer in setting that goal as being one of the first HBCU teams to get to Omaha and compete in the College World Series. It's a lofty goal, but hey, I figure if you're going to shoot for the stars, and if you miss the stars, you may land on the moon. So why not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great quote there. Mr. Turner, I'll kick it back to you, sir.
Reggie, based on all your accomplishments that you've had in your life and coming from the same area that we're from, Longview Heights, Pine Hill, South Memphis, I would say this from the bottom of my heart. The greatest goal that you've done and made, I think, the neighborhood proud in the city of Memphis is that your Presidential Scholarship Award, the highest GPA when you left Southern University, a 3.45. I just want you to talk about that a little bit, because not only it takes a high level to play at a high level as a student athlete, but to get the books and stay and maintain that level of determination and focus, that's saying a lot, man. Talk about that time and you getting that award at Southern University.
Well, it was an esteemed award, and I was very thankful and blessed to have won it. But I did focus on education, and I attribute that to my mother, who was in the education system. And not only that, but I had a scholarship, and I didn't want to lose my scholarship because my parents didn't have to pay anything, because I had a full scholarship, and that's very unusual in baseball. Baseball only gives out 11.7 scholarships, and you can have a number of 40 players. So right now, myself, I have 40 players that I could have, but 27 what they call counters. And I have to divide up 11.7 scholarships amongst all those kids. But for myself, education was important to me, and my parents instilled that in me when I left Memphis. And it was a challenge. In baseball, you're playing 3 times a week. Or 4 if you're playing a midweek game. Whereas football, you play 1 time a week, and the rest of the time you practice and you go to your room. Basketball, you may play 2 times a week, depending on the time of the season. But baseball, you might play a midweek game. Then you're going to play every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you're missing a lot of class. And when you go on the road, especially if you go on a long road trip, for instance, if like now, when we're going to Texas Southern or Prairie View, we leave a day early. So we leave on a Thursday. So you're missing class Thursday. You're missing class Friday. So it's a lot of time, and it takes a lot of discipline. So, for me to achieve such a goal, I have to say that, number one, I was blessed. But I did take my books with me, and some of the seniors used to get on my case about it, but I didn't let it bother me. But then when I became a senior, some of the freshmen saw me with my books, and they would bring their books. So it was a way for me to set an example for the younger kids to help them to understand the importance of, keeping your grades up and continue to be eligible to play. Because if your grades fall below a certain standard, then you will not be eligible to play. And I didn't want that to happen.
Okay, the final question of the day. Say you have a high level, let's say a 5-star prospect right now in high school that wants to go and play on the major league level and want to go to a big time baseball program. What would be the advice to a young man if he comes across this video today? What would you tell him the avenues and the goals of being successful at the next level?
Well, getting to Major League Baseball is not a very easy task. It really isn't. And it's a very, very small fraternity of us that have made. And I'm so thankful that I do have guys that I can connect with. But as it relates to sharing information with a young kid, number one, I would tell him to become a student of the game. Learn the game. Learn how to play the game, the fundamentals of the game. Pick a player out in the major leagues, follow that player and find out what his work ethic is, how he prepares for the game, the way that he goes about working out, practicing, things like that. but also to develop a strong work ethic. Baseball is like golf. You just can't get out there on the golf course and go out there swinging and think you're going to get birdies and eagles and things like that. You have to work at your craft, and you have to believe in yourself. And also with baseball, much differently than a lot of other sports, baseball is a game of failure. I mean, think about it, Vincent. To hit 300, you're a potential Hall of Famer. But that means that you're failing 70% of the time. I don't know what profession you can work in and fail 70% of the time and become a millionaire. Baseball, you can. So you have to have thick skin, and you have to be able to understand and be able to handle failure. In other words, Vincent, you can't get too high when you're going good, because baseball will humble you. You can't get too low when you're not going good, when you're in a slump. You have to have an even keel, an even sense of position when you're playing baseball. And it's like the game of life, Vincent. You're going to have good days, you're going to have terrible days, and then you're going to have some times when you're just going along the way. So if you can have a very, very, easygoing, approach to baseball, learning how to handle the good and the bad, being a student of the game, having good work ethic, learn your position, I think you can do a very, very good job. I saw a picture of Gerald Delk flash on my computer. And
Yes,
Gerald
sir.
Delk is a good friend of mine. He went to Southside High School. You may know Gerald, but
Yes, sir.
yeah, he's a fraternity brother as well. But I just see a picture of him. I'm not sure, he may be listening. I'm not sure, but it's good to see Gerald Delk flash on the computer. So Gerald, if you're listening, good to see you, brother. And but that's what I would tell a young kid. Be a student of the game, work hard, understand the ups and downs of the game, pick a player out in the big leagues that you want to emanate, and then find out how that guy goes about preparing for the game.
Today, here on 100 Yards of Football, it's been a blessing and it's been a great honor. I can't tell my audience how proud and how honored I am to have somebody from the same walk of life in the same area I'm from to be successful at a high level. So today, Mr. Reggie Williams, what is your final words today here on 100 Yards of Football?
My final words, hey, to God be the glory, Vincent. That's what I say. To God be the glory, and thank him for keeping me and watching over me and protecting my family, my children and my grandson and all that. And I just, thank him for being such a good God to me, because he has really opened a lot of doors for me, Vincent. He's kept me from danger and harm. That doesn't mean that everything is going well. That doesn't mean that I'm always happy, because, life is not like that. But for the most part, I say to God be the glory. And I'm so thankful that I've had this opportunity to talk with you, to be at this job here at Alcorn, and to experience the baseball life that I have experienced. And so I'm very thankful. And I hope to pray that I'll remain humble and be a servant and be able to help someone else along the way. If I can do that, then I would have a life of purpose, being able to help someone else along the way, whether it be baseball or whether it be anything else in life. If I can help someone else, then I will have lived a purposeful life.
I'd like to say today, thank you to Mr. Logan Landers for making it happen today. Our producer, he's done an outstanding job. Thank you to the team of 100 Yards Football. Man, y'all making my dream come true. To my business partner, Mr. Ronnie Keebler from Brooklyn, New York, thank you. To Mr. Jeremiah Long, thank you for all your hard work you do on Monday mornings for us here at 100 Yards Football. Thank you to the man with the voice, Mr. Mark Denham. I'd like to say I appreciate you and I love you. And thank you especially to another Southern great, former baseball great in the 50s. Son was a first-round draft choice of the Dallas Cowboys, 1991 overall, Mr. Russell Maryland. That was his son, but I'm talking about Mr. Jim Maryland. Thank you for all your hard work and you believing in me in 100 Yards of Football. My final words today as I ended here on 100 Yards Football. When I was thinking about this gentleman coming on to the show last night, I was up at 12 o'clock at night, and I'm not going to tell no lie. But I was thinking about all my childhood, going back to the first grade, and thinking about all the great neighborhoods in Memphis, Tennessee, from Longview Heights to Chickasaw Gardens to Orange Mound, to Pine Hill, to Douglas Frazier, back in the 60s, there was some great times growing up. And me being in the first grade, I was thinking about the year 1966 when me and Reggie was going up to Longview Elementary, and I was thinking about college basketball. Texas El Paso winning the national championship with David Lattin, Bobby Joe Hill, the first starting Black Five. Then I was thinking about the 1966 Notre Dame Fighting Irish winning the national championship in football. Alan Page, Terry Hanratty, Rocky Blar. Then I was thinking about the NBA, the Boston Celtics, would have Bill Russell, K.C. Jones, John Havlicek. And I was just thinking about, man, could I go back to that time and what I know now? I sure live my life differently. But I can say this. Today is proud to be from the hometown of the 901, Memphis, Tennessee. I know people might get upset out there, but I gotta say it. That city and the time I grew up in that city with this gentleman right here, it was the best city that I ever been in at that time. It was so much love in the community. So, to the people out there that's listening to 100 Yards of Football today, if you like the video, please comment and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards Football. Thanks again to my man, my guest, the legend, Mr. Reggie Williams. I consider one of the greatest athletes to come out of Memphis, Tennessee. Y'all be blessed here on 100 Yards of Football.